is up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Club. I'm Alex.
I'm Pete.
And we're coming to you from a couple of places on the internet. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Crowdcast. We're coming to you later on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts.
You don't have to name them all.
I'm going to name all of them. TuneIn, Podbean,
This is fun.
Audrey, Omni. I'm just making up stuff now, I guess. But there's plenty we don't have to make up because we have a great show for you tonight that we are excited to bring to all of you. Before we do, though, Justin is off for right now. He may pop in the middle of the show. I'm not confident.
But this is exciting because he's promoting his new show that's coming out. So he's going to be on Dances with the Stars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Seriously?
He's doing a little soft shoeing. Yeah, it's going to be. It's going to be.
Is he going to be on Disney night? Is he going to do a Disney dance?
I'm not sure. I think he's going to be Aladdin, and he's going to kiss himself as the genie.
Oh, okay. So it's one of those like puppet, double puppet things. I know what you're talking about. Yes.
The old double puppet.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows what
the old double puppet.
No need to explain. Yeah, Justin might be in later, I guess. We'll see what happens. But in the meantime, couple of things at the top here. Now, as mentioned on many shows, Brett Macris, our excellent CBC chef, has been curating cocktails for everybody every week. This week, we're doing the Early Bird from the Gotham Cocktail book. It's a very refreshing blend. I wanted to say of herbs and spices, but that's not right.
Yeah, what KFC?
It's not a big thing of chicken in a jar. Unfortunately, it involves grapefruit.
Chicken in a jar? Where did you go to eat chicken?
A jar. Anyway, it's a delicious thing. We've made it before. It has gin and grapefruit juice. And for anybody who doesn't know, this is all cocktails that take place in the continuity of Gotham City. So it's very fun. Unfortunately, I was completely out of grapefruit juice. So instead, I made this delightful cocktail over here. Ooh. But I made it in a Walking Dead glass. So I think still.
You want nerd credit for that?
Yeah. Is that all right?
Okay.
I
feel like
all right, fair enough. I always, by the way, for anybody who's tuning in for the first time, I always go to Pete for my nerd credit. He gives me a nerd allowance every Sunday night that I spend over the course of the week. It's very nice. Thanks, Pete.
And you don't save it, which is upsetting. You spend it every week.
And you always chide me for it, and that's why I call you Papa Pete.
Oh, I wish you wouldn't have said that.
Now, another thing that we've been asking of all of you is to leave a comment over on Apple Podcasts, 5 stars preferable, and leave a comment and a request for a book for us to review on our Stack podcast. We got a new one here. This is from Jollyman444. I look forward to the Stack every week. Really enjoying the banter between the guys. It bananas good.
Oh,
Pete,
man.
The catchphrase is catching on. It's like hanging out with your buddies, talking comics over a few cold ones. Review recommendation, Batman Universe is a Brian Michael Bendis story that first appeared in the Walmart exclusive 100-page giant books.
Walmart exclusive?
Yeah. You can get a comic book and you can get a big tub of ice cream. Or one of those chickens in a jar, that I've been hearing a lot about around the way. Anyway, it first appeared in the Walmart exclusive 100-page giant books. To me, it was much better than it had any business being. I'd love to hear if you think I'm crazy or if this is truly a hidden gem. So thank you, Jollyman444. We will be reviewing that this week on our Stack podcast.
We'll let you know if you're crazy or not.
We'll let you know. That's the only thing. That's going to be our whole review. Oh, yeah, I don't think he is either. Just a little bit of a spoiler there. But yeah, tune into the Stack Podcast Wednesday, 9 a.m., both in the Comic Book Club feed and the Stack feed to check it out. And folks, we're going to kick off this show with our first guest. It looks like he just got here, and I'm already going to pull him right into the stream. Nice. There's a new book called The Best Archie Comic Book Ever. See if it lives up to the hype. I don't want to, again, make any promises or anything like that. I really like Double Digest number 183, but we'll see if it holds up.
Wow.
Ruben Najera, he has a story in the book. What's that, Pete?
Very specific.
Yes. Well, that's the one where Archie has to choose between Betty and Veronica, and he's not sure which way he's going to go.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a pretty, seminal story in terms of Archie comics. That's the only time I've seen that.
Wow.
And here he is, Ruben Najera. Hello, how are you?
How are you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thanks for hopping in. Thanks for talking about the book. So, best Archie comic book ever on stands tomorrow, is that right?
Yeah, tomorrow. I actually just got I got the copy today.
Woo-hoo.
So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Look at that.
Wow.
Already bagged and boarded. I like to see that. I like to see that.
Good to go. Everything's good. I checked it, read it. It's beautiful. Absolutely
great.
gorgeous.
What would you do if you checked it and it was like, I don't know, they had changed all of your words?
Yeah.
What would you do?
I mean, I honestly, I'm so grateful to be a part of this. Like, if they change some things up, I'd just be like, I mean, I don't know. I didn't even think about that. You know, I'm just so honored, honestly. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, let's talk about this book because it is super fun. I don't want to really spoil anything here, but there are 3 short stories that go a little wild, even for Archie Comics. You did the third one. Can you talk about the content of it? I don't know how much you want to tease or anything.
So my story's called Operatives. So it's basically Betty and Veronica, they're super secret spy agents. And so it takes place in an opera, thus why I called it Operatives, you know?
Oh,
Got
because of that. And then,
So it's really cool. It's this, you know, I grew up watching a lot of like the Luc Besson films or Femme Fatales or like, you know what I mean? James Bond. And you can guess it, all the references. I absolutely love the action-packed movies growing up. And like, I just kind of wanted to put a Betty and Veronica in like this scenario where they're, instead of always like you know, they're always kind of battling each other most of the time, you know what I mean? They're actually like, you know, they're a duo here, so like it's pretty exciting, you know. And they just make a badass kick-ass duo. And you know, I'm not going to give away the story, but there's a new villain in this book. It's the first time it's ever appeared in an Archie comic. You don't really have too many villains that, you know, reappear, so this issue is actually like a first appearance, so it's a key issue. So if you collect like Archie comics that have keys, this is one of the few of them. There's not very many, you know. So this is one, and it's one of a villain, and it's one of a villain that actually you might see reoccur in future. So I mean, for anyone that likes just key issues as well, not just reading them, this has like a double value.
And it's a one pickup. It's a must pickup.
Yeah, it's a one shot. You can't go wrong. It's not like you have to like collect them all. It's all in this story, and for the price, I mean, you can't go wrong either. You know, I think it's $3.99. You get all the stories. There's like an annual style. It's like it's a gold star all the way, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Even if I wasn't writing on it, I'd still buy it because everything that it's got going for it. You know, and it's got that those beautiful covers too. Yeah.
Oh, they're great. Now, what were you told in terms of this comic? Like, did you pitch a couple of different ideas and ended up with Spy Story, or were they like best Archie comic ever? Go.
I actually have like 6 stories that I wrote.
Oh wow!
I did a lot. I'm not sure if everyone else did as much as I did, but I went all in. Like I wrote numerous ones because I was like, whichever one you guys want to do, the one that hits the most, let's run with it. So I've done stuff. I did some stories with I did something with Jughead in a different story. I did something with Archie in a different story. I did something with more miscellaneous characters in a different story. So we'll see if we hit some of those later on down the line. That'd be sweet. But this is the first one we went off with right here, and I'm just super honored with it. You know what? You know what's cool is I actually bought when Tim Seeley did the cover.
Yeah.
So he does them like he doesn't like do them digitally. He does them like the real deal Holyfield. Like, and actually when I heard that, I like reached out to his art dealer. I was like, "Can I buy it?" So like, I actually bought
nice,
very nice.
Yeah,
Tim Seeley original.
Yeah, there you go. And then I told Tim, I was like, "Dude, I love it, man." So this is going on my wall forever. But yeah, it's just as beautiful in person as it looks on the. He killed it for real.
Yeah, just to kind of like. Upsell your book even more. I mean, it's a murderer's row. It's a who's who. I mean, you've got Van Lente and Tim Seeley coming right out of the box. I mean, that's a power pack right there. That's a lot of heat.
Yeah, and my interior artist, the person, we're basically set up in pairs in this book. There's like teams of 3. And so I was paired up with Georgia Sposito, and she's the one that's been doing all like the interior stuff on all the Doctor Who books at Titan as of late. So pretty cool. So and she did a remarkable job. Yeah.
Now, I feel like everybody has that first memory of Archie comics? Like, can remember, maybe not the first memory, but definitely like that seminal memory of this is when I got interested in Archie as a kid. What was it for you?
So as a kid, my I didn't really grow up very, we were going from home to home. I mean, I don't know how many trailer parks or whatnot I've lived in houses I've bounced around in, because I grew up on the border, so I would be back and forth from Mexico to the United States, and so we didn't really have like very much money. So like I was, to make it even funnier, like I grew up being a big fan of like the Ninja Turtles,
Yeah.
And so like I was one of those kids that like you got like your one action figure on your birthday and on Christmas, and that was it, right?
Right.
So and then I had a brother, so I used to like beg him like if I got Raphael, I'd be like, get Michelangelo, get Leonardo, like on your birthday, so that we can complete the 4 turtles after a year and a half or something like that. You know what I mean? A year. Nice. And so, but like with when it came to like comics, we couldn't get like a toy when we were kids, and the cheap option was like a candy at the checkout when we were like at the local Kmart or whatever store was here, and my mom would be like, okay, get a candy or whatnot, and my brother would always get the candy, and I would always I started to opt for the comic. And so at these stores like that, at the checkout counter, at the checkout counter, those Archie digests were always there, and I was like, there. I want that, because like my brother would eat his candy and like that was it, done deal, right? Quick sugar fix, quick sugar rush. But me, it was like, I can get this comic book and I'll be able to read it today and tomorrow and next week and the week after that, and like I would like trace it and I would draw it and I would like cut some pages out, and like I use that thing to like for everything that it had, you know what I mean? So like so like the Archie and the comics go really way back for me, and then crossing back and forth to like Mexico for like doctor visits or seeing like, because the majority of my family lived over there when I was growing up. There was no iPhones, there was no iPads, there was no televisions in the cars, you know what I mean? And so like basically like our form of entertainment was mine was comic books, you know what I mean? That was my form of entertainment. So I'd be reading that thing. We were stuck in line like 3.5, 4 hours trying to cross back from Mexico, because it always took longer to cross back than to cross over. So it just Archie's goes, I run deep with it, I've always loved it, and to be writing for them right now is insane. It's full circle, I in my area, I'm the first writer to break into comics, period. There's never been someone that's done that. There's one person named Dave Garcia, and he broke in as an artist, and he got to do the early Archie Ninja Turtle comics that I used to read. So those are the turtle books I read. So even crazier, the turtle books that I read back then were also Archie. So I'm just like intertwined in this web, like, I was a product of it, and I became a part of it, and it hits at my heartstrings. Right. Yeah.
Well, and also for those who don't know about your background, you're also were a professional skateboarder.
Yeah.
Or still?
In my 20s, I skated professionally. Yeah, I don't do it anymore. I still skate though. In fact, I skated yesterday, but I just don't do it for anybody. Like I went through the industry. I did all that. I had sponsorships, endorsements. I had my own Power Bar box, which was sold like at Target, Walmart, Ralph's. Like the other person that was on the other box during the endorsement was like Blake Griffin. At the time, he played for the Clippers.
Wow.
Like I used to skate for like all kinds of crazy brands. Like I had like deals and stuff for a while. So I was very familiar with action sports, period.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you have a Power Bar flavor, or was it just generally you're on all the boxes?
I was so young when I did that, and like I'll be transparent that like I got like early on when I was skating professionally, I got like an early cash advance when I signed a contract, and I didn't sign for a percentage when I was young because I didn't have an agent.
Oh wow!
And like it turned out that I didn't have no say on what my signature product was going to be, and it ended up being like their version of a Snickers.
Oh no!
And of course, like it sold like millions of units. You know what I mean? And to the point where like the first time I saw that box, I was at a Target store when I had my apartment. I was able to afford an apartment and all this in Orange County at that time when I moved, because I was doing the whole skate thing. And I just went in to buy milk to eat my cereal. Really simple, you know what I mean? And there was a woman in front of me, and like the little baby seating thing. She had a box, and it was facing me. 2 boxes actually, and one of the boxes was flipped backwards, and it was me on a skateboard, and it said my name and stuff. And I was behind her, and I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, it's already, you know, like, wow. And she didn't know who I was, obviously, and like, but that's where it hit me that like, they don't even need to know who the heck I am. Like, they're gonna buy it based on the flavor alone. You know what I mean? It's like you went to go buy Wheaties. You don't really. Some people collect, right? But some people just want their cereal. So if it has an Olympic athlete and I don't know who that is, but I want my Wheaties. You know what I mean? So like, they bought it. It sold like crazy. And like, my mistake, I didn't sign the right. Had I signed like a percentage, it would have been like millions of dollars, right? And so that was like in my early. So I made a lot of like early mistakes like that growing up, and you know, I got better at doing the deals and all that. But you know, for the most part, you know, I did everything I wanted to do with skating, and I did it early on like that because I know like my body was only going to be able to do so much for so long like that, you know, and that's the reason why I did that first. I knew like all the writing and all the music and all that I want to do, I could do that later, and that's what I'm already doing now. You know what I mean? So I'm starting to do all of those. I'm conquering all those dreams now. But all the action sports stuff, I did it early on purpose because I was just thinking ahead, like, smart. I'm not going to do this later. I'm going to do this right now. You know, I actually have a younger brother who's a pro skater right now. Like, he's in the industry right now. He's in it, you know. So, and he has like a signature shoe with Adidas and all. So it's So, and I got him into skating when he was 3 years old. I used to take him with me everywhere. Wow. So so I have just a big history with skating. In general, and I'll always do it. I'll be the 80-year-old dude with long white hair on the beach on a cruiser, just passing you by, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, not doing any tricks, just riding. I just love the feeling. It's just, it doesn't really have to be about tricks to me. It's just the independence and the freedom of it, and just how you get from point A to point B. It's all about the journey, and I love it. You know what I mean? I don't have to do anything crazy on it. I just gotta ride. That's all. It's almost like when people just want to get on their Harleys and just take off, you know what I mean, and go. It's kind of like that, but I mean, it's just I just go on my board and I just go, and I just kind of get my little zone, you know. And it's exercise too, you know, riding from point A to point. Just, you know, it's just my way, and I love it. I'll always love it. So I have that history with it. I have that understanding of how everything works, and I just did a lot with it for many years. Yeah.
Cool. Well, hopefully you can loop back to a second Power Bar endorsement with the Archie Comics, but we'll see what happens. Other than this issue coming out tomorrow, do you have anything else lined up at this point? Anything else you want to tease or plug?
With Archie, I can't talk about it technically yet because we don't know where it's going to go. But I am working on an original IP. So
cool.
I'm working on an original IP. We might do like a Kickstarter for it. But it's basically like I call them. They're kind of like the Mexican Avengers or like the Mexican X-Men. They're like from Mexico. Like and they get their So I can kind of go more into the details of that a little later. But that story, I finished it. It's done. It's already with my artist, and he's already doing character design, everything. So eventually I'll be announcing that. But that's something that I've been working on and I've officially finished, and that'll probably come a little sooner, an announcement. In terms of all the other things, and then on top of that, I started up a podcast called Passions Personified, and I'm gonna be launching that in the next week.
Man.
Yeah.
What's the idea of that? Are you able to talk about the concept of the podcast?
Yeah. So Passions Personified, I'm basically interviewing just pretty much I basically ask a lot of ordinary questions to extraordinary individuals. But like for the most part, I get people from different categories who follow their passions. So like my first guest is going to be John Dupre, who did all of the score soundtrack for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1, 2, and 3.
Nice.
Yeah, and he did like Weird Al's UHF. He did a Fish Called Wanda. So, and it's really hard to get an interview with him. He's out in the UK, and man, what a treat interviewing him. And basically, like I'm going to interview a lot of people that, either weren't on people's like radar, but they should be, or people that but you don't know. You're like, oh yeah, like no shit, like he did, and to hear these stories, like for instance, some of the things that like John tells me in our interview, like blew my mind. Like I didn't know the inside details on what was going on during the movie, why certain things were the way they were, who played bass on this. You know what I mean? Like it just blew my mind, some of the things I found. And I just find it like some of these stories have to be told, because you never know, like even like John told me, like life is short, you know what I mean? And like it's this time that we have with these people and these heroes, because that soundtrack to that movie is my favorite of all time, and that's my favorite movie of all time. Actually, I wouldn't even have had a skate career, because the first time I ever saw a skateboard, and I told him this, was in the Ninja Turtle movie in the beginning when they're in the sewer. That's my first time seeing a skateboard. It wasn't like a person in front of me in my hometown. It was that movie. So holy shit, like
I feel you on that. I learned the nunchucks from the Michelangelo comic. You know what I mean? Like,
wow. This is crazy to hear from you guys, because the first time I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I started crawling around on the ground like a turtle. Like that was my big takeaway from it. So
nice.
Yours is more exciting.
Well, who's to say?
Who is to say?
It's his stories are it's pretty incredible. I'm just interviewing a lot of people like that I just want to get the inside take on things. You know what I mean? That should have a say. You know what I mean? Like it's like they did so much for the culture without even knowing sometimes. You know what I mean? Their impact, and it impacted me, and I know other people listen to it, they'll be impacted as well. So that's pretty much what my show is going to be about. And awesome. It's probably gonna be like every 2 weeks we'll do a show. So it's not like two, because a lot of my guests, like I said, like my first guest isn't even in the United States. You know what I mean? So like I'm gonna have people. I'm trying to get a lot of people that are kind of random but difficult to get. But when I have them interviewed, it's like, whoa, this is crazy. This is random. You know what I mean? Like one of these days, maybe I'll try to interview the guy that was actually in the skating in the suit. Like I'll go that deep cut, Yeah,
I feel like you don't actually want to do the concept of the podcast. You're saying you just want to do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles podcast.
I'm gonna knock out all the people. Early on.
People would be like, "Wow, this is really inspiring." You talked to the guy who did the score of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now we talk to the people in the costumes of Teenage. Hold on a second.
Deep dive on all the turtles. Yeah. I do have some other. I had another guest that we already shot, but we haven't uploaded. And he was in the movie No Country for Old Men, so he got to work with Tommy Lee Jones and. He's a friend of mine that I did a signing with at San Diego Comic-Con many years ago. And there's just been different people that I've interacted with through the years. Because in between the skating and the comic stuff, I did stunt work in like movies and music videos. Wow. So I met a lot of people. And I had at that point, I did have like an agent, and I was getting sent to auditions and stuff like that. So I understand that part of the industry too.
Wow.
Yeah. So I had a pretty wild journey throughout, Yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's fantastic. And I'm so glad that it's brought you to Archie Comics. Again, the book is great, and I'm excited to see whatever is coming down the road with you and Archie and all the rest of the stuff. Ruben, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. No, thank you for having me. You guys are awesome. And love the show. Keep up all the great work.
Thanks, man. You too.
Thanks, Ruben.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Have a good night.
Take care.
All right. Once again, that is Ruben Najera. The book is called The Best Archie Comic Ever, and it is coming out tomorrow from Archie Comics. And as we said, it is super, super fun, so people should check it out for sure.
Right, it's awesome. A lot of great stories that really brought me back, man. I remember the old, trying to talk to my brother about what action figure he was going to get so I could get one, and then they could fight each other. It's a huge back and forth, man. I used to have to give up cereal for that. It was real.
Oh my God, cereal of all things.
Yeah, man. Cinnamon Toast Crunch. That was money to kids back then, dude.
That was back in the day. We used to exchange it for goods and services. All right, why don't we bring in our next guests here? They are the creators of the new book Slip, which came out last week from Algonquin Young Readers and is already at #1 on the Young Readers charts over on Amazon, which is super cool. We got Aatmaja Pandya, and any second now, Marika McCoola is going to be in here as well, I hope.
I think Marika mentioned that she's eating dinner, so she might be running to put dinner away or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem.
No problem. Yeah.
Yes, that's fine. We could eat dinner. Pete, do you want to take out your dinner? Pete has a whole
sure,
tray
yeah.
of lasagna right underneath.
Oh, she's in the chat. She says she did accept the request, but
you know what? I love this platform.
It works really well.
the stream
Yeah.
Super seamless.
Every time. But yeah, thank you for coming today.
Yay! We did it.
There we go. We did it. Awesome. Thank you both for coming on today. I love Slip. This book is so good. Congratulations on the initial success here. As I said, at least as of today, it's #1 in, I think, young adult graphic novels something on Amazon. I'll look it up because I got the title right. Yeah, hold on.
That.
Hold on. I'm going to give you some news. Don't look Slip Amazon. Do a more specific search on Google, unfortunately. Yes, it is. Here we go. #1 new release in teen and young adult coming of age comics and graphic novels.
Ooh.
Right now on Amazon.
Great.
There you go.
Nice.
Well, there you go. Good things. Thanks so much for coming on. Bye-bye. I just wanted to give you the news. No, this book is great. It's very intense to read. It's very emotional and very heartfelt. But Marika, I believe it was based, at least in part, on some real experiences that you have. Is that right?
Yeah. So emotionally, it's a little more abstract, but is based on changing relationships that I had with different people. And then the actual doing ceramics on a farm is very much grounded in reality. Between my junior and senior year of college, I spent a month at the Salem Artworks, which is in Salem, New York. It's this tiny little farm town. It's this beautiful like artist residency location with sculptures and lots of barns. I had a studio in a barn. I built a kiln out of bricks that I found and fired it. And lived and slept in a 62 Ford Falcon van. And it was really great.
That's crazy. So the idea of the book, though, without getting too much into spoilers, is that this main character, who we can see on the cover here if you're watching it live, she is dealing with a situation with one of her friends, ends up going to this art school and ends up dealing with that in a very real way, in a very serious way in the background, with sort of a lot of magical realism, I would say, thrown into the mix. When did you come on board, Aatmaja, for the project, or was it something that you both were working on together?
No, overall, this book took 9 years, was it?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay.
If we think about
9 years ago.
the very conception to the very end of it. So it was in Marika's hands for half that time, and then it was offered to me to illustrate. And that took another 5 years. So no, 4 years, and then another year for print. So it was actually almost exactly half and half with us.
Wow.
Man. Well, then back to you, Marika, in terms of the concept. You started with this idea of this place you had been to, and then you start working in the other characters. Where did these different elements come from?
So at the time I was living in upstate New York, I was actually working as a teacher for undergraduates. So teaching art and teaching literature was very much a part of my life. And I was working my way through processing a lot of emotions around a relationship that had ended badly. And I wanted to touch clay while I was doing that. I wanted to work out my emotions through the clay and couldn't do that. And so the next best thing was writing about it. And so I started working on this particular book. And it was emotionally awful to work on, to be totally honest. It was reliving a lot of really hard emotions and trying to put my characters through the same thing. And then once I was done with it and it was passed to Aatmaja. So Aatmaja and I know each other as friends before we started working together. And so part of my thing is that, so I am an illustrator, but I don't illustrate everything that I write. And I really wanted this to be a true collaboration once it got handed off to an illustrator. And so I basically told her, I think you're a great person. I'm not going to talk to you about the book while you're working on it at all. If you have a question, you can come to me, you can come to the editor, but I want this to be your book as well as my book. And so I don't want to tell you anything about it or feel like I'm exerting my force. I write very, very tight scripts with very tightly notated panels and page turns. And so all the information that I needed was there. And then it was really, I wanted to let Aatmaja do her job.
Well, in terms of that, was to get into a specific artistic choice that happens in the book, whenever fantasy starts to push through, red comes out in the colors. Aatmaja, was that something from you? Was that in the script? How did that work?
Yeah, actually, the color wasn't notated in the script at all. The decision to print in 2-color was made by the publisher, but we were allowed initially to pick the colors. So, Rick and I, like, one of the few times we talked together, we were like, it has to be, the color has to be terracotta brown. Obviously, it's about pottery. And then, like, well, yeah, you see where this is going. And then I went back and talked to the publisher, and we even did sample pages, and they were like, it looks like poop. So I was so mad. I was like, no, it doesn't. Brown is a beautiful color. And
nice.
No, it totally, they were right. It would have looked like poop. So.
Well, I think it worked out really well. Just to get into like one specific content note, the first way that we really see the color come in, I think, if I remember correctly, is when the main character sets something on fire. So to me, that was like the fire growing out of the page and creating these images. Was that kind of the idea there?
Yeah, so ultimately we want these 2 colors because I mean, this book is like, it's not a happy book. There are like joyful moments in it, but it's not an upbeat book. So I didn't want it to be a very colorful book. I wanted it to have kind of a nostalgic, sad feel. So I thought, like, with the desaturated color, that's kind of in trend right now. You know, like you look at books like This One Summer, Heartstopper, books like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's within those parameters, and then the color, the accent color is so, it's a type of color that isn't present in nature. You know, it's almost too vibrant to be real. So like, and having that printed in Pantone color means it really vibrates against a page. It's not just digital, like, flat color. So it was a nice opportunity to make use of the medium to supplement the story.
Yeah. Getting back to the story then, Marika, for you, it almost feels like this live wire in a way, to be talking about having people criticize art and talk about the process of art while you yourself are creating art. What was that like? What was that pressure there to craft that properly?
So, I mean, I went to art school, and then I went and got an MFA. So I have a lot of experience with critiques, and then I went and taught undergraduates for 8 years. So critique is very much a part of what I do and sort of how I move through the world. I was also raised by an art teacher, so that's always been a part of my life. And personally, I thrive with critiques. Like, my critique partner that I work with her because she tears everything I write to pieces. And she does it because there's something important there. And she only tears it apart because she sees that kernel that can come out if she does so. Whereas, like, she wouldn't spend the effort tearing it apart if there wasn't something worth it there. And so I see, like, critiques as very helpful, and I love them and I welcome them. And I think that they are intimidating, especially when you're young. But sort of as you get older and you've had more of them, you become accustomed to how they work and how to phrase things, and they're a little less scary. Whereas, so for the characters in this book, they're still young. Critiques are terrifying. They haven't quite understood that yet. They're at that high school phase of their existence. Give them a freshman year at art school, and like they'll know how to deal with it. They'll cry a couple times, and then it'll be over. They'll have their walls up. They'll figure it out. So I do think critiques are really valuable. I still use them. I also think, though, that not every book is for every reader. So I recognize the fact that the book that I have written is not for every reader. Not everyone's going to like it. And that's totally fine. There are so many other books that you can read. You are never going to read everything you want to before you die. And that's okay. But this book will be right for some people. And I really hope that they find it. And so I think that, like, I really appreciate criticism and I appreciate reviews. And having worked in the book industry for 12 years, I appreciate the breadth of what exists and that we can talk about it and that we can lead people to the right book. And so I actually find it really interesting to read critiques of the book, because sometimes I also agree with them. Like, I wrote this book and finished it like over 5 years ago. And so I was a very different person from who I am now. I went in other things, I wrote in different ways. And so the only thing that I think about is that every project I work on, I want to grow in some way and create something that is better than the last in some way. And so I appreciate this book and what it allowed me to do. And I'm really happy it's out in the world. But I also am really excited about the next things that I've worked on and things that are in the works that challenge me more. And I pushed a little harder. And like, if I rewrote Slip now, it would probably be better. It would probably be a different book. And I acknowledge
not better.
that,
No way.
Something beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I wanted to take a step back just because I thought it was interesting that you brought up Heartstopper, which is obviously very hot right now. I mean, it's always very hot, but like with the TV show on Netflix and everything. And this did remind me of it a little bit, not just in terms of the coloring choices, but also just in terms of having queer romance that deals with trauma but does it in a relatively gentle way. I think that's how Alice Oseman described Heartstopper, just rather than being like, this is traumatic and this is the only thing we're dealing with. This is part of the experience. This is part of what we are dealing with in this book. So what was your approach there in terms of slow playing is probably the wrong thing, but in terms of working in these traumatic and very serious topics that you do deal with throughout the course of the book, but still making it work as an overall story about this character's growth and change?
So this originally wasn't going to be a romance. All of a sudden, Mary showed up and started kissing Jade, and I was like, I guess I'm writing a romance. Let me now rewrite this. And I remember reading a Madeleine L'Engle essay when I was in high school about how she had a book that completely changed. I believe it was Arm of the Starfish, because a character showed up and started doing things. And so when Mary showed up and started doing things, I was like, okay, that's how this book is going to go, and I'm going to change it. And I think one of the reasons I wrote it as a shifting friendship story is because I think there aren't very many of those in YA. We often see YA, both any type of relationship, whether it was romantic or not, as sort of the be-all, end-all relationship that will last you through your entire life. And the reality is that some of those will do that, but not all of them will. And a lot of them will shift and change as we grow and change. And so I really wanted that to be reflected. And I think that part of that nuance in relationship is also the nuance that you get in terms of like, life is messy. You're never dealing with just one thing. And so the complexity of saying, oh, I'm dealing with this budding romance, I'm also dealing with these feelings of my friend, that's what real life is actually going to throw at you. And so to me, it made sense to have all those pieces there, because that is the complexity that we're always dealing with and trying to balance.
Well, I love that. It definitely felt very real to me while I was reading it. Certainly like had some flashbacks of camp myself and other experiences like that while I was reading the book. Aatmaja, again, for you, in terms of designing the characters, what was important, particularly when it comes to the main characters in terms of their look and their feel? What were you trying to capture there?
It's a good question. Well, I wanted to make sure that the kids really looked quite young. At that age, you think, you go through phases in, I think, your late teens and your early 20s, where every year you're like, I'm an adult now. And you're not, you're not really until like you hit 30. So I wanted it, they're experiencing very adult emotions, but I wanted to make it clear that they are really young, and they have like round faces and like soft tans and like forearms and stuff. So that was like certainly on purpose. For Jade, I like the main character in the cover. She was described pretty thoroughly in Marika's script, but personally, I just wanted a character who was kind of like, who always was like a little bit in motion. I wanted her hair to be quite like messy and full, because I wanted her to always be like moving a little bit, even when she was standing still. Like to kind of imply that like her mind is always running, even when she herself is not saying anything. And to be totally frank, for the other characters, I kind of just designed them in a way that like I think is cute personally, like as for me to be. So Mary, her love interest, is like the kind of girl that I really like. Kim, her rival, is like the kind of girl that I really like. The teacher is like the handsome kind of teacher that I would have been into as a kid.
Well, some fun stuff.
I love that too. That's so cool to hear. In terms of having spent so much time on this, are there other projects that you have in the work at this point? Are there other things that you have coming down the road, or is it going to be another 10 years until we see the next book?
Worth the wait.
Thank you.
My agent has a couple of things that she's been pitching for a while. One is my online dating memoir comics.
Nice.
Which was a period of a year in which I aggressively dated in the Somerville and Cambridge area and made comics about it, because a bad date is a very good comic. And sort of like broke down all sorts of interesting percentages and information, like Harvard versus MIT, how many can I catch all the hard sciences? And so that book, which I would illustrate, is with my agent and is being pitched. And I also adapted that and fictionalized it as a TV pitch, and she has that as well. So I've been working on that. And then I have a couple other things in the works, some things that I'm sort of like pulling out of the long lost documents on my computer. And then also looking a bit at writing novels, specifically romance.
Oh, wow. Cool.
I'm going to read out this question, even though it sounds like you guys are not sure, just because I want to say this on the show for any of the listeners. So our other guest, Ruben Najera, it turns out has a comic book shop as well called Metahumans Comics. And he was wondering if the book is orderable through Diamond distributors. You can certainly get it through traditional publishers, I think, through Amazon and Barnes & Noble and everything like that. But do you know if it's through Diamond as well?
I'm pretty sure Diamond, it is available because my local comic shop got it through them. That's their
Oh, great.
There we go.
Yeah.
A little technical.
And
We did business here on the show.
There we go.
Amazing. Well, cool. I'm really looking forward to whatever is next from both of you.
Yeah,
This
congratulations
book is
on this
so
book.
good, and it's so emotional, and
Thank
it
you.
was such a great read. So thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on. It was a pleasure
congratulations.
chatting about it, and have a lovely night.
Thank you for having us. This was really fun.
All right. There we go. Once again, the book is called Slip. It's out now from Algonquin Young Readers. That was Marika McCoola and Aatmaja Pandya. And the book is great. Like I was saying before, it's just so emotional. There's so much heart on the page going on in it. I loved it. Good stuff. And folks, we are going to move on with our next section, which is my favorite section because you all make it up. It is your audience questions.
All right.
And for audience questions, drop a question over in the YouTube comments or an Ask a Question over here on Crowdcast. But first, Pete, we got a sponsor this week.
Woohoo!
Whoop whoop. It is a new podcast called Dynamic Duel DC versus Marvel.
What?
I know, it is a podcast where twin brothers, Johnny DC and Marvelous Joe, answer who would win in a Marvel versus DC matchup using, are you ready for this? Math. They speculate, you're out at this point, Pete. They speculate on how the battles will play out beat for beat, then put the debates to rest using Monte Carlo simulations. They also
Monte
review
Carlo.
Marvel and DC shows and films, presumably, I haven't checked on this, not using math, but maybe they use math for that
Maybe
as well.
they do,
I
yeah.
don't honestly know. You can find Dynamic Duel DC versus Marvel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and visit them on Instagram at Dynamic Duel Podcast and Twitter Dynamic_Duel. That's going to add up to a good time.
Well, it's definitely an interesting concept and worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to check it out. You can count on that.
Oh boy! Wow, dude.
Oh boy, Pete, what are you
really
drinking?
work on that? Did you tee that up? I hope.
No,
not.
I really didn't. That was just off the top of my head, if you can
Good,
believe it.
good. That makes me feel a little bit better.
What are you drinking tonight? An old
I
mango
hated to
and
think of you
vodka?
being like, "Hey, oh, this is gonna kill him because of the math."
This is
And
some
then I'm
primo
gonna say,
material
"God,
I got going
oh
on
my
here."
God. Hey, Marty, proofread this. How's this feel? All right. Yeah. I made a little a summer punch, a little vodka, and a mix of different things here. So yeah,
Nice.
get nice and saucy on that.
I made myself a one pina met the other is the name of the drink. I've been kind of obsessed. I got this pineapple gum syrup, which is basically like simple syrup with pineapple, made with pineapples. It's got some mezcal, some lime juice, amaro, a dash of cayenne. Really good.
Who are
Great
you?
stuff. I don't know. I'm a fancy cocktail man. is who
Yeah,
I
you're
am.
fucking fancy, bro.
All right, why don't we get into some questions here? It looks like we have one over on YouTube. This is from John Dorsey. What, gentlemen, are your 3 favorite crossover events of all time?
Jesus H.
I don't think we need to decide on 3 together because I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
But I'll tell you, to give you a little time to think, I was thinking about this a little bit over the weekend because my son, 7 years old,
Yep.
yeah, you know him.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
He has been super interested in Marvel stuff, the movies specifically, but he started reading Ultimate Spider-Man, which I think I've talked about before.
Yep.
And then he discovered those weird white boxes that I have laying all over the house are full of all of my old comics.
Right.
And not only that, I was like, you could read them. And he's like, all of them? And I was like, not all of them, but, check them by me. first.
You just got to run it by me first because, hey, son, I'm into some weird shit. All right.
Well, but even like we were flipping through one of the books, and there was this old. I don't know if you remember. It was, I think, from like the early '90s, a miniseries called Havoc Wolverine Meltdown, where I think they basically go on a drunken road trip and have a lot of sex together, not with each other, with other people. But I remember that book, and that was definitely like hair grew on my chest for the first time when I read it. And I'm like, you're not ready to read that yet.
Wow.
You can't do that. But he picked up the first thing that he was very excited about. He wanted to read Infinity Gauntlet.
Wow, that's where he's starting.
He was super excited because he's seen Infinity War and Endgame.
Sure.
And so he read that, and I just saw like his forehead scrunching up while he was reading it. And every once in a while he'd be like, so how does Silver Surfer know everybody? And I was like, oh, this is the middle of hundreds of comics at this point. He's like, oh, okay. Wait, what's going on with Thanos? What? And then he gave up halfway through it. He was like, I'm out.
Good for him.
Give me something else.
Yeah, he's got to start small. You can't just.
Well, so I passed him the next thing, which is
there's too much going on. There's too many things, too many worlds coming together to start with.
I found my old Amazing Spider-Mans, though. And the first one that I ever read of Amazing Spider-Man, I think, was $2.99, or at least that's the earliest one that I could find. And he looked at it and he was like, I don't know what's going on here. And I said, okay, start with 300. Which is the first like beginning of the Venom stuff where he gives up the black symbiote suit. So he's been super into that. So he's been slowly reading through that. That doesn't answer the question necessarily, but that was to give you time. Have you come up with an answer?
I completely forgot about
with my scintillating story. Yeah. I'll tell you my favorite crossover of all time. I've said this before is Inferno, the Marvel X-Men crossover. And the reason is, and in the same log box, there's all the Inferno books, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna end up reading these again because they're so good. Is that like it led up through all of the X-Men books, and there was a thing where Inferno, demons taking over New York, never would have happened if every individual X-Men team didn't screw up in a very specific way. And I love that. I love the fact that like that was so X-Men of. Well, but like the X-Men make a critical error, and New Mutants make a critical error, and X-Force makes a critical error, and all of these things happen where it's like they weaved it together, so it's like, whoops, you all made these mistakes, and now demons have taken over all of New York, and the Empire State Building is covered in gross stuff and hundreds of feet tall, and a mailbox is eating somebody, and it was crazy and dark, and I loved it. It was great. What about you? Favorite crossover, even if not top three?
Oh, I mean, one of the things that comes to mind is made me think of what you talked about was Schism, where it was Wolverine's camp coming head to head with Cyclops, and there was a lot of emotional fun.
You like stuff. Schism the best? Interesting.
Well, it's one of the ones that kind of came to mind here. So
interesting.
I would have to do some real research and come back to this one,
Yeah. All right. We'll do research. We'll come back. This is from Stray Bullet. For the last season of Riverdale, if you could pull any story from any of the Archie-based comics, which one would you like them to do? Archie versus Predator? Afterlife?
I mean, they kind of done Afterlife a little bit. I mean, there's been some crazy stuff on the show. But yeah, I mean, that Archie versus Predator thing did not end well for our friends at Riverdale. So I don't know if that'd be a hell of a way to go out.
Well, I will say, not to turn this into our Riverdale podcast, but Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, the showrunner of Riverdale, said that once they realized that they were in fact going to be ending the show, they were figuring out the ending of season 6, and they were trying to decide, should we go for a quieter ending or should we go for a big swing that sets up the final season, the next season? And once they knew it was in fact the final season, they're like, let's do the big swing. Let's do the big crazy thing. And I don't know what that is, but I wonder, like we talked about a lot, I wonder if they're going to do the Life with Archie thing, where we're going to see parallel timelines. It might not exactly be this, but in Life with Archie, you followed Archie as he married Betty and Archie as he married Veronica. And I could see them doing something like that, where it's almost like Lost style with two timelines and you don't know which one is the real one.
What's upsetting about this news is we could have got just a regular ending. Like, you imagine how nice it would have been just to end Riverdale in a not insane way and just be like, hey, you know what? That was a crazy show, but at least it landed the ship and we can walk away going, wow, what a roller coaster. But now it's going to go to crazy town.
I don't know. I think it's going to go to Crazy Sound for 21 episodes, and then it's going to end in a really sweet and heartfelt way.
Really?
I truly believe that.
Wow.
We'll see.
That would be awesome.
We'll see what happens. We got... Wait, this is another one over on YouTube. Pete, what are your favorite X-Men characters, and why do you love them?
I mean, obviously it's Wolverine because he's short and angry, and I can relate and understand what that's like to walk around with a lot of rage, and just tall people reaching things. It's not fun to watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to live that stool life. They don't know what that's like. You know what I mean? They don't know what it's like to know where ladders are at all times and having to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, man, live that stool life. You know what I'm talking about.
Just I can't even imagine being so tall that like you can reach stuff in the top cover. That's just insane lifestyle.
I legitimately did say to my wife the other day that I wish I was an inch and a half taller, just so I could reach that top shelf in the cupboard without having to be like, oh God, I can feel my muscles. My muscles are straining.
I'll never have any idea what's in the back of that top. It's always the front I can reach and swat at things.
Yep.
But, the key to life could be back there, and I'll never know.
Kevin asks, what was a comic story that resonated with you for the weirdest or most unexpected of reasons? Comic story that resonated with you for the most unexpected of reasons.
To me, when I read the story where where Wolverine and Ben Grimm lost their powers and still were fighting and didn't stop being a hero, didn't change who they were, changed how they fought, changed how they did things, but was such a kind of cool thing at the time. I was kind of going through a transitional period as far as what I was going to do with my life. And I was surprised how much courage it gave me at the time.
I'm trying to think of I don't know. I feel like most things resonate for me for very clear reasons, So I'm trying to think about something that shocked me in some way. I mean, I don't know, this isn't necessarily totally shocking, but the Hulk Crossroads story, the one where he was kind of lost in the crossroads, sent there, banished by Doctor Strange, that obviously, I was a lonely kid, so of course that resonated with me in retrospect, but at the time, there wasn't anything identified in the Hulk. That was not a character that was I'm the Hulk. Yes. That was not something that I thought. So I guess at the time, that certainly struck me. But I loved that story and really felt that story very deeply, but probably didn't understand why until, I don't know, June 14th, 2022, when I thought about it again.
Wow.
Approximately.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. There's so many different kind of comics and so many different kind of characters. It's nice to see different things in yourself and different characters. I'm not smart, but I love to read Black Panther comics and witness somebody strategizing and making great plans and using people in different ways. It's cool to kind of get to jump into other people's worlds and see how they view things. And I think it really helps, kind of how you see things, if you can kind of jump around and see other people's points of view.
That's a great way to put it. And folks, that is it for your audience questions. Whoop, whoop. We're going to move it to our next section, which is trivia. And for that, we're going to turn it over to Pete. Hey, did you forget to do trivia, Pete?
No, I remembered.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. You're not hurriedly putting together some trivia questions or anything like that?
No, I would just give up.
All right. Well, I will say real quick, our YouTube stream crashed again. If anybody's listening to this on the podcast, if you want to check out the show, please come to Crowdcast. rather than YouTube, maybe because that does not seem to be working very well lately. But if anybody would like to do trivia, just raise your hand or say hand up first or anything like that. And you will, first hand up guy, you will come in and win $25 free at Midtown Comics. Particularly, I know there's somebody over on YouTube who wanted to do it. So if you want to do it, just drop your name in the comments here and we'll get it going. Pete, vamp for a second. Talk about your day. What's going on?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. What's going on? It's it's been a lot of rain, a lot of crazy rain going on in Philly, man. I don't know about New York, but a lot of thunderstorms and stuff, and it's been a lot of just like crazy rain, and then it's gone, and then crazy rain again, and then it's gone.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Oop, what did I do there? Oh, I changed it. This is great. This is some good behind-the-scenes stuff. Do we have any volunteers? Absolutely anybody. If not, I'm going to have to do it and donate it to charity. My goodness. The worst. Nobody over here. $25. Midtown Comics. We'll give it away. No? Okay. I guess I'll do it.
All right. Hey, today's trivia is on topical comic news and a small nod to the legend Ray Liotta, R.I.P.
Excellent. And if it's okay with you, Pete, I'm going to donate my winnings instead of to me and Midtown Comics to Everytown for gun control. I know we've done that a couple of times, but that's still an issue that's top of mind for me. So that's what I'm competing for. And if I lose, they don't get the money.
That's well, I have a good feeling about this. But please listen to all three options before you make your selection, okay? In case this is your first time.
All right, here we go. Thanks.
Here we
Pete.
go.
Yes,
Question number one.
First time checking out your trivia.
Yep. What comic book company is doing the Ghostbusters Afterlife sequel? Is it A, Dark Horse, B, Hell Horse, or is it C, Kim Basinger?
Well, Hell Horse doesn't seem to be a comic book company, and Kim Basinger puts out some really good comics, but not usually licensed properties. So I'm going to go with the first one, Dark Horse.
Nice job. Here we go. Question number 2. Who does Iron Man propose to in Iron Man number 20? Is it A, Dark Cat, B, Hellcat, or C, Dave Franco?
Oh, interesting. I'm getting a little bit of a theme here. Dave Franco, I know, wants to stay
hot.
single.
I mean,
super hot, but he's like, he wants to play the field. You know what I'm talking about?
Well,
like when I talk to him,
weird that you say that.
When I text him, he's like, "Bro, I'm playing the field."
Bro,
that's what he says.
I wish you would stop harassing Dave Franco.
I never will stop doing that. Hellcat.
Nice job. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. That's the only real one, so I would hope you pick that one. Here we go. Last one. Mecha Anime meets blank in this new comic from DC called DC Mech number 1. Is it A, the Justice League, B, Crew of Men, or C, Amanda Crew?
So, given I don't actually know what Crew of Men is, I'm going to go with Justice League.
The Justice League is correct.
Wow, that was a close one. Yeah. We almost deprived Everytown, but glad to hear it. If you would like to participate in trivia, just come on over to Crowdcast or come on over. And in the meantime, new comics. What?
In case you got a secret. What the C answers were, of course, we're talking about the 2010 rom-com Charlie St. Cloud. I mean, come on.
Oh, come on.
You know come on,
man. I'm always thinking about Charlie St. Cloud. And I'm also always thinking about how new comic books are coming out all the time. Pete, what are you looking forward to that's coming out this week? It's a real mystery to me what you're going to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's everything is coming up, Daniel Warren Johnson, because the Jurassic League number 2 is bananas. And so is Do a Power Bomb number 1. So it is, it's a good time. It's a good time right now. It's unbelievable comics coming to you. So it's a great time to be a comic book nerd.
It is a great time. I'm going to give a shout out to Hulkling and Wiccan #1 from Marvel.
Oh, you softy. You big softy.
I love that couple, so I'm very excited to check out this book from Marvel, see what happens with these little cuties, see what happens with them. And we're going to be talking about all of those books in our Stack podcast, which rolls out, as mentioned before.
And maybe Justin will be there.
Maybe. Wednesday, 9 a.m. in the Comic Book Club feed and its own dedicated Stack feed. And folks, that is it for this week's show. A couple of people we want to thank. We want to thank Marika McCoola and Aatmaja Pandya for coming on and talking about Slip. Check that out in stores right now and on Amazon, where it's #1 in the category that I said. Also, Ruben Najera for coming on to talk about the best Archie comic ever, which is out in stores tomorrow and is super fun. Next week on the show, we're going to have a bunch of great guests here. Curtis Clow is going to be here to talk about Dark Horse Comics Beastlands. And also Henry Zabrowski and Marcus Parks are going to be here to talk about The Last Comic Book on the Left, based on their podcast.
I can't
Last
wait.
House on the Left, I believe. So that should be super
Last
fun.
podcast on the left.
Last podcast on the left. There you go. I should look that up for next week, I guess.
Yeah, Henry's an old school comedian from New York. Love
Very
that guy.
excited
Can't
to
wait
chat
to
with
catch
him
up
again.
with him.
And we have a bunch of other podcasts you can check out. Let's Hear It for the Boys, rolling out every Friday for the new season of The Boys. Riverdale After Dark, rolling out usually Mondays at this point after the Sunday episodes of Riverdale. Yeah. Marvel Vision, we're talking about Miss Marvel. We got a new episode dropping 3 a.m. in the morning right now as we're talking about it. Also, the Doom Room, our Doom Patrol podcast every Thursday. Patreon.com/Comic Book Club to support this show and all the shows we do. Subscribe on Apple, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice at Comic Book Live on Twitter, Comic Book Club Live on Instagram, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, good night.
Take care of yourself.